Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial with C++. Today I show you how to actually use stacks. Last time I introduced to you what stacks are, what functions you'll need, what the struct will look like, and today I'll show you how it basically works. So what you see on the screen is just a standard setup. It has the comments up here. You include IO stream because we'll be using cout, cin, uh, while loop, everything else. They need IO stream, including string. I'm going to use string as the stack element uh, inside the struct. And you can use number, you don't have to use string, but I'm using string so that you don't confuse numbers, with one thing with another. And using namespace standard is, again, these are just the basics. The first thing we want to do with stacks for this tutorial is to introduce a constant. You do this by using const, this const. It's a reserved word in C++. It'll make the following variable a constant. Max stack equals to 10. Actually, I won't do 10. It's maybe too much. I'll do 5. 5, yeah. Again, max stack is just holding the value of 5. Const makes it so that the value of max stack can't be changed anywhere else in the program, even if it's by accident. It makes sure that it stays at 5. I'll show you what that's used for later on. We'll be using that for some of the loops. And yeah, so we'll do this. Next thing we want to do is introduce the struct. You saw the struct. Struct in the last tutorial. I showed you what it looked like, and it'll look exactly the same thing. I'll name the stack type. Again, you can name this anything you want. It's just a name. I'm using stack type just to make it easy to explain, just to show you what it actually does. It's just a stack type. It's like integer. You can use int in there, but that's not really a good idea. And then we'll do string name, and name is going to be an array. Again, you need to know arrays for this. We'll do max stack. This is basically the same as saying name 5, because max stack holds the value of 5. Name subscript 5 is the same as name subscript max stack. The other thing we have to declare is the integer top, int top, and that's our basic structure. That's all you need. So before I start using the functions, I'm going to go down here and declare my stack. So to declare a stack in a struct, or just declare a struct type, you do stack type, and then you name it stack. So stack is now declared as a struct variable, I guess, because stack holds both stack.name and stack.top, and that's how you access them. We do stack.name. See, it shows up. You can do stack.name, or you can do stack.top. See, that's how you access the two values here. You can also use class. It'll work the same way, except in class you might have to change everything to public. In struct, everything is public. That's an explanation for another time. We also have to declare a few other variables. These are the variables we'll be taking in from the user as well as outputting onto the screen. So we'll do string. We'll do new element. Remember, we can't use the word new because new is a reserved word. You use that with pointers. And we'll do popped element. The new element will take in the value from the user using a cin. We'll ask the user to enter a name, and he'll put in a name, and it'll be put into new element, and then new element will be sent down via one of the functions and introduced into name dot whatever the value of the subscript is. Popped element is the opposite. It's what we'll be taking out of the stack. The last value that went in is the first value that's coming out. We'll be using that in a loop as well. Another thing I want to introduce is char quest. I'll show you what that does later on, but the first thing I want to do now is introduce the the functions one at a time and implement them into the function. So we'll do void create stack. It's the same thing as before, the last tutorial. We'll do stack type stack. Again, create stack is just a name. You can call it anything you want. You can call it just create, if you're more comfortable with that. Stack type again is the type of the struct, and stack is the name of the stack that we're sending down, which is here. You can call the name of the stack anything you want in the void function prototype, as long as when you're calling it inside the function, inside the main program, you call it whatever you declared it up here. Again, basic void function. We're setting it down by reference because we need the values to be sent back to the struct, to the stack. We'll be changing what top does. So we're going to call struct. We're going to call create stack. We're going to create stack, and that's how you call it. And then I'm going to show you what that stack looks like. This is pretty simple. We'll just void create stack type. Remember stack, it looks exactly the same as what it looks like here. You can just copy and paste it. What create stack does is it just makes it so that the stack is completely empty, it doesn't have any values, right? Well, that's not really what it does. It just sets the value of stack.top to -1. Because when stack.top is -1, the stack is empty to the rest of the program. It can have values everywhere else, but as the stack progresses, it'll override those values over and over again, even when it pops it out. And this is what stack type does. When you open something, it's always good to close. I always say that. And to close it, we'll introduce something called void destroy stack. You can call it anything you want again. Stack type. Where is that thing? Well, major typo. Stack. And right before the system pause, we'll call it destroy stack. And this wants to be the last thing you call in the program. So what will that look like? Just to save a little bit of time, I'll copy this, take it below here. Remember, you don't need this. And this will look exactly the same as that. And that's what destroy stack does. It sets stack.top to -1. Because to the rest of the program, stack.top equals -1. It's an empty stack. They're exactly the same function. In queues, it's a little bit different, but in stacks, that's all you have to do. There, you cover two functions in one go. The next thing we want to do is we will declare another function. We'll call it, let's do bool full stack. We'll do stack type stack. You don't have to send this by reference because it's a Boolean type. It'll return either true or false or 1 or 0. I'll show you what the structure of that function looks like what the definition looks like. But first I'm going to use that. So we're going to ask the user, do you want to enter data? We'll do y, and again, this serves as we're doing it this way so that the user doesn't have to input all the 5 values. He can have just 3 values and it'll output the 3 from forward to backward. And we'll do cin quest, and that's where we're using quest. It'll either take y, actually it'll just take y, anything else it'll close. Quest is short for question, and that's the question we're asking. And then we have to set up a while loop. We'll do while. Okay, we will need another parenthesis. We'll do quest equals to y, or quest equals to capital Y. Remember, C++ can't differentiates between capital and lowercase, so you want to do both of them. Just make sure it picks up. And we'll do and is not full stack stack. So this is where we're sending back stack. Leave 3 parentheses. This is calling the function full stack, and we're sending down stack. We're checking to see if stack.top equals to -1 or equals to max stack minus 1. Max stack is 5. So if full stack equals to 4, or excuse me, if stack.top equals to 4, that means full stack is full and the while loop won't run. That's what we want to do. Before I put what will go in the while loop, I'll do the full stack boolean function first. I'll do bool, the full stack. It looks the same as the prototype. Stack type, stack. We'll open it. We'll use an if statement. We'll do if stack.top equals to max stack minus 1. In this case, it'll be 5 minus 4, because the max value that the stack array can have is 4, since it goes from 0 to 4. We'll do return 1. You can also do return true. It'll work the same way. I'll just do return 1. We'll do else return 0. Here, the exclamation point means not. If full stack returns true, not turns it into false. So if full stack returns false, and if full stack returns false, and it's just the opposite of what full stack returns. The basics of C++. And if that happens, the while loop will run. So what's going to be in the while loop? We're going to ask the user to input data. So please enter name. cn. This is where we put in the string new element in there. New element. The name is going to be stored temporarily inside new element before we send it down using push. So before I send it down using push, I'm going to declare push up here. We'll do void push. We'll do stack type stack element string new element. I'll send that down by reference as well, and you close it. This will send down both stack and new element by reference, because they'll both be changing. We'll be changing the value of stack, the stack.top, and stack.name subscript, and we'll do push stack comma new element. We're just telling the program to send down stack as well as new element. And I'm going to define what the void function push does. We do void push stack type stack element what am I doing? String new element. The first thing we want to do is increase stack.top by 1. You can also stack.top equals stack.top plus 1. This is better. It just adds on 1 to it. Stack.top plus plus. Since stack.top, since we declared stack.top to equal to -1, we can't hold an array in subscript -1. We have to start at 0. So the first thing you want to do is do stack.top plus plus. It'll set stack.top to 0, and then we can have our first array, which is stack.name subscript 0, and it'll hold whatever the value of new is. So for that, we'll do stack.name. See, that shows up automatically. We'll do stack.top equals to new element. So let's say the user enters John as the name inside new element. We'll send down stack.top stack.name with this, and new John with new element. It'll come back down here. Stack.top will increase by 1. So if it's at -1, it'll go to 0. If it's at 0, it'll go to 1, and so on. It'll in whatever the value of new element is, which is John. It'll put in whatever stack.name stack.top is subscript. So stack.top is, let's say 1. It'll look like stack.name subscript 1 equals to new element. Basics of arrays. I showed you that a few months ago, and that's all the push function has. That's what we do. And this is not completely the while loop. The while loop allows you to keep running infinitely, or until the parameters of the while loop are unsatisfied. So we'll have to ask those questions again, like, do you want to enter data and quest? If quest is Y, again, it'll run it again. If quest is no, or basically anything else in this situation, it'll stop and it'll keep going to the next program. If I don't put anything, it'll just destroy the stack. Now we're coming down to our last two functions and last two steps of our stacks. Before I do that, I want to introduce another function, another bool type function. This one will be empty stack. Again, you can name this anything you want. We'll just send back stack type. In this one, we're checking to see whether empty stack is equals to -1. I mean, stack.top equals to -1. If it equals to -1, that means it's empty. That means there's nowhere to go. You can either add on or just close the program. So I'm just going to, before I put it into the main program, I'll just go down here under void push and just define it first. So we'll do if stack.top equals to -1, return 1. You can also return true, else return false. So if stack.top is empty, which is -1, it'll return true. We're going to be using it the same way we did here, except we won't be using quest. We'll be using, if stack.empty stack is not, true, it'll run the push while loop. The pop while loop. So we'll go down here right after the while loop for the questioning ends. So we'll do while not empty stack. No. You can also set it up so that if stack.top equals to -1, return false, then and here you can just do if empty stack, just stack, and it'll return false, and it'll just run that way. You don't need the not here. I just got used to doing it this way. If it returns false, that's all you need. That's all the parameters of the while loop. Now we'll do pop. We'll need the pop function. So before I do that, I have to declare that right now. So we'll do void. We'll do pop. We'll just send down stack type. Stack. Because we need to be sending back the values of everything, and string popped element. We have to send down what popped element is every time. Otherwise, the function won't know. We need to send that back by reference. Excuse me. Since popped element won't have any values to begin with, we need to send something back. We'll go down here. Open it. Lots of typos. Sorry. We'll do popped element equals to stack.name, parenthesis, in brackets, subscript stack.top. Since stack.top will have a value, if stack.top is 4, then it'll be stack.name subscript 4. Let's say the name there is Jack, so it'll input that into popped element until it's sent back up here to the while loop. It'll output, and then it'll go back down here to continue the while loop. But we're not done yet. Just like in push, we had to increment top. In pop, we have to decrement top. So how do you do that? We'll do stack dot top minus minus. It's as simple as that. It decrements stack dot top by 1 every time the while loop runs, so every time the function is called. It'll go down once it hits -1. Empty stack will return true, and the while loop will run because it's going to run as long as empty stack does not return true, or as long as it returns false. So the while loop, what will the while loop have? We'll have to call pop. So we'll do stack and popped element. Again, a little bit pop-up comes up here just to help you, and we'll have to see out what popped element is. So we'll do popped element. We'll do endl, added a line, and just to add some neatness to it, I'll just do a see out here. You'll put a line between, put a few empty lines between the input and the output. Again, you have your 6 basic functions in stacks. You have your main program here, and you have the definitions of all of your functions here. It looks like a lot of work, but once you get used to it, it's pretty easy. Just to test out the program, we will run it now. And some build errors. I will get through that. Stacked up to. Looks like I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, you need instruct. Instruct. You need a semicolon there at the end. Unlike void functions for it to run. So we'll run it again. There. We'll do Y. It says please enter name. We'll do John. We'll do Y. We'll do Jane. We'll do Y one more time. We'll do Mark, Y, and Harry. This is the fourth one. We can enter one more. We'll do it Mary. And if I press enter, it should output the names based on last in first out. So it'll be Mary, Harry, Mark, Jane, John. We'll do Y. It asks it again, but the while loop wasn't actually implemented the best way possible. But yeah. Anyway, here Mary, Harry, Mark, Jane, John. Again, backwards. We can get rid of this. You can use a do while loop instead. You can use other ways, and yeah, that's basically it. And if you want to see like what it looks like if you just enter like 2 values, we'll do John, Jane. If I press no, or if I press N or anything else, it'll end the program and it'll output Jane and John. Jane and John. There you go. So if you want to input more than 5 values, so what will you have to do? You will have to go up here and change the value of max stack. As simple. If you just use the value of 7 everywhere, you have to change the value of 7 here. You have to go down, full stack, you have to change something over here. Go down, change something over here. In the empty stack, you have to change everything everywhere. So that's what the constant does. It makes it easy. Let's run it. Again, we'll do 1, we'll do John, Jane, I'll put in my name in there. We'll do Y, we'll do Mark, Mary. Remember, see, it's capital Y right there. We already entered 6 names. And this one should be the last one, so we'll do Harry. Again, it'll ask the Y again, I can see Harry, Mary. I spelled Mary wrong. Mark, easy programming, Nasmus, John, Jane, John. Again, backwards. It's that simple. You can increase this value to whatever you want. It'll keep going. You don't have to worry about it running until the max value because of the while loop here. It's as simple as that. This is basics of stacks. Later on, I hope to show you queues. If you have any questions about this or any other tutorials of mine, feel free to let me know. Remember to visit easyprogramming.net. I should have all my programs up there. I want to thank you all for watching. I'm sorry that this video was a little too long. It's not as quick to explain stacks as I thought it would be. At first, the first time I did this, I just inputted all the functions and then slowly went through everything, but I found that explaining that took a little bit longer than doing it this way. Well, thanks for taking the time to watch this. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. I'll do my best to help you. And guys, remember to subscribe. Thank you.